Welcome to Healthy Minds. I'm Dr. Jeff Borenstein. Everyone is touched by psychiatric conditions, either themselves or a loved one. Do not suffer in silence. With help, there is hope. Today on Healthy Minds,
we used to say the horrible thing to our patients, come see me when you are ready. I've got nothing to offer to you as a physician unless you are ready to change your behavior. Terrible thing to tell to a patient, but the reason for that was because we did not have any technology to really work with people who were highly ambivalent about their use. We can start working with somebody who has zero interest in changing anything in their lives.
that's today on Healthy Minds. Healthy Minds is brought to you in part by the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, the Graham Beck Foundation, and the New York State Office of Mental Health. Welcome to Healthy Minds. I'm Dr. Jeff Borenstein. Every day, more than 90 Americans die as a result of an overdose on opioids, and over 2 million Americans are addicted to prescription pain relievers, heroin, and synthetic opioids. Today I speak with leading expert Dr. Petros Levounis about the opioid crisis. Petros, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here, Jeff.
I want to jump in and talk about what caused this terrible opioid crisis that we're living through right now.
Obviously a huge issue these days, not only in the US, but abroad as well. And the way that I see it is that there were three major forces that came together in a perfect storm that gave us this huge epidemic that we're now going through. The first part had to do with a medical mistake. At some point, maybe around the 1980s or so, we thought that people who have no genetic load of addiction, whose parents are not addicted to opioids or anything else, people who were not self-medicating any kind of psychiatric problems or uncomfortable conditions like depression or anxiety, and people who were not down and out, living in drug-infested neighborhoods, are safe. We somehow thought that these are the true causes of addiction. So in the absence of any kind of genetic load, in the absence of any kind of psychological problems or environmental, social stressors, the risk of addiction would be negligible. Huge mistake. And it was actually supported by an article that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in January of 1980 that gave us a ratio and said that out of 12,000 people who are going to be using opioids, four are going to be addicted to the drug.
So we as a profession didn't understand the risk for anybody that taking these medicines are putting that person at risk of addiction.
Absolutely. That was a huge, huge mistake. It turns out that that article that everybody refers to, it's one of the most frequently cited articles in all of medicine, and it's not an article at all. It's a letter to the editor. It's 10.5 lines, 10.5 of the most damaging lines in all of medical literature. It's really astonishing. And one of the authors very recently actually said it was a huge mistake. So that was a medical mistake. We really thought that the majority of people would not have a problem with opioids. So the mantra was prescribe away. I started medical school in 1986, and it was very, very clear that if I were to be one of those forward-thinking, new age physicians, not like one of those goons of yesteryears like my father, any pain, opioids, high-dose opioids, nobody should be in any pain. And why? Because the risk of addiction is 12,000 to 4.
So it's safe to use, we thought, incorrectly, and who would want somebody to be in pain? So treat the pain.
Right. I believe that the majority of people who subscribed to this idea had the heart in the right place. They really did not want to see people suffer, but it was a mistake, a huge mistake.
So
then enter the pharmaceutical industry, who thought that this was music to their ears. So we have the evidence there, those 10 and a half lines of evidence. And so they started putting ads out there that promised the world to people. If you had lower back pain, osteoarthritis, any kind of chronic pain, boom, opioids, high-dose opioids, you'll be just fine. And they're really kind of, you can see those ads having these beautiful people emerging after opioid therapy and looking so good and so functional, which of course was anything but.